the first time I've done a podcast.
There's the camera.
What a trip.
Okay. Charles,
Mm,
I've known you since I probably first met you in 2008. And I think you
Yeah.
were my sales rep for a local paper that we have here.
Yep.
And you were selling me advertising. And I'll start by saying this, Charles. When I first met you, you're just a guy who is full of life, and you talk, you've got a big smile, you're friendly, you're attractive in the sense that because of the way you hold yourself, you're just an amazing guy, and I just love you to death. Sorry, man.
No, I love you too.
Okay.
Love you too, brother.
And with that being said, I've witnessed your life unfold since 2008, and it's been a trip. And
Yeah.
I will say this: when we became kind of partners in crime, was about it was in 2020. Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, man. 2020 was the beginning of a completely different life for me. That's when everything fell apart. That's when I lost my job, I lost my relationship, and I lost my mind.
And
yeah.
And so tell me about losing your mind.
Well, losing my mind was really losing my relationship just catapulted me into self-discovery. And in the self-discovery, I realized that I was in spiritual pain, that I had a lot of trauma that I was carrying with me from childhood and broken relationships and broken home. I was carrying the trauma with my daughter, right? And the divorce of my of her mother from before, and it spiraled me in alcoholism, heavy, and I didn't have a place to live, so it was just everything at once, boom, 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 and then the world decided that it was just going to go and throw something at us and lock us up, and so you compile all of that on top of someone who's already lost everything. It's a potent mix.
So where did you find solace other than the Bible or the bottle? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, because we're not at the Bible yet.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I was chasing everything. Just like one of those millions of stories we hear, of I was, doing this, doing that, couldn't find peace, couldn't find love here, all the wrong places. That was me. I was, selling myself short every which way. I hated myself. And in hating myself, I wanted to basically slowly kill myself, because I knew I was too wise to just off myself, because I felt like that would create more problems in the afterlife that I was heavily aware of. And so I'm just stuck. I'm stuck, waiting for the liquor stores to open first thing in the morning to go and just drown my stuff out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so continuing to do that, using people, but not really knowing that I was objectifying women. In some cases, I just thought I was sharing love. Sharing love. Just, can't we just all love and be free? And that was just that was a blinder. It was a lie. And I just kept telling myself that keep filling with more joy, whatever that is, and it'll be fine. But it wasn't.
Did you have any spiritual grounding? Where did your spiritual grounding come from?
That's what made it worse.
Prior to 2020.
Prior to 2020 was a mixture of literally everything. My previous relationship was diving heavily into the love of self. The fact that we are all gods and we are all powerful on our own, and we can manifest our own destiny. We can manifest our own everything. And I went down that road very heavily. I went down the New Age road very heavily and spent thousands on courses and breath work and candles and stuff like that and rituals, and always found glimpses of some kind of change and alteration and peace, but it would never last.
Right. And what about in your childhood? Did you have any
Whew. I
spiritual
had
grounding in your childhood?
Mormonism. I had Jehovah's Witness. I had Worldwide Church of God. I had the Christian churches, you name it.
So your
And
dad was shopping.
he was shopping, he was looking, and I never once felt peace. I never once saw this so-called Holy Spirit influencing him to make him what I hear about. If you have the Holy Spirit, is that you are to be more kind, more gentle. You'll have more self-control. Those I stopped at those three
Hmm.
because I never once witnessed my father exercising those. So I just assumed it's all nonsense. Because if we're studying this hard, if we're going to church this much, we should be able to pick up on some of that.
So did you? So it's an interesting thing because I've gone through relationships myself and have had a very difficult time um, in getting to the point where I can live in peace and harmony with somebody because if somebody else is chaotic, then it turns us chaotic. So you end up going through this. You end up in 2020.
Yeah.
We stayed on the same property for a little bit. I watched the self destruction, but something happened, and we all move away from the property. But what happened then?
Ooh, boy. So after floating around in a trailer and living on some of my friends' property and drinking myself into oblivion and losing my mind, I ended up moving myself down to my dad's place in Great Creek. He offered to give me some inherited land. I said, okay, this is going to be an interesting move because my dad and I have never really gotten along. Ever. So now it's like, well, I guess I got nothing to lose. I might as well try it. And it was a disaster.
Right.
And my girlfriend at the time, Sarah, went down there with me. And she, even though she loved parts of it, she could see my struggle was now getting worse because I was toning down on the alcoholism, but then I was ramping up on the childhood trauma. Now that I'm living with my father, he's treating me like I was when I had left home.
Right.
And the fights became increasing until it blew up in March of 2022, I believe. And I basically went to Mexico completely with Sarah, completely just disassociated from my family, never wanting to come back. But of course, money ran out and I had to come back. And when I came back, that's when everything changed. I realized that I was still carrying the whole Mexico trip. I was carrying pain and I was drinking more there and I couldn't, I was arguing with Sarah almost every day, explosive fights. And when we came back 3 weeks later, she said, I have to leave you.
And she did.
She did. And she said, I feel that I am getting in the way of you and God. And I lost it. I said, God, all this God stuff is nonsense. I don't buy it. And now you're leaving me. And that's when I hit absolute rock bottom. I took a few jobs out of town with no hopes of trying to go back home. I was looking to just leave. And the one night I was going to drink myself to death. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I was in Kimberley at a job at a house by myself, renovating a house. And I was drinking as much wine as I could imagine. About 2 liters to myself, and I was on trying to drink more and smoking, chain smoking, anything. And I'll never forget it. I went outside and I looked up at the sky and I said 3 words that I'll never forget. I said, please help me. And, it's comical because every time I tell this story, it gets more real and real every time. I just was like, well, 3 words, please help me. And I went to drink a sip of my wine. And I'll never forget how it tasted. It tasted like gasoline. Well, this is weird. This doesn't make any sense. I drink this stuff all the time. Went for another sip. It tasted worse. And I'm pretty, I'm always thinking. I'm always thinking.
Right.
And I'm like, no, no, no. So I lit up a cigarette and choked. I'm like, well, no, no, this isn't, no, there's no way. I knew that something was starting to shift. Went for another drag of the smoke, choked even more. And I said, there's absolutely no way. This is impossible. I tried rolling up a joint, same thing. It was like I was taking my first puff of a cigarette when I was 15. The wine was so sour and so off-putting. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just come back to it tomorrow. Maybe I've reached my peak and I should probably go to bed. And I went to sleep on the floor. I had a little foamy. I went to sleep on the floor, and the next morning, something happened. I woke up with what can best be described as an enormous amount of pain. Now, there's physical pain, there's mental pain, but this was something else. I didn't have a headache. I felt like the best way I can describe it is if I do something wrong to somebody, if I hurt someone, I feel bad. Take that feeling like you just accidentally, uh, you know, bump somebody or whatever in a crowd, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Take that times 100 and put that on yourself. I couldn't even stand up. I was on the ground holding my stomach and I was screaming in pain. And I knew something was happening to me. I couldn't explain it. I just kept screaming. And what it felt like, now that I can look back, it literally felt like two parts of me were now starting to fight one another. That there was this old me trying to die, and there was a new me trying to evolve. Like a butterfly, I guess. And I wasn't okay with it. Because I knew that everything I've heard about prayer and all of that stuff, and I was cursing God's name days before. I was saying Jesus' name in vain days before. I didn't care. I wanted to die. A few hours of rolling around on the floor, holding my stomach and screaming in pain, I knew that the old me was dying and a new me was starting to come forward and was fighting. I had two spirits fighting. I had the spirit of darkness and I had a spirit of light. And one had to win. And I knew it. And I knew one of them had to win. And a few hours of that, I felt like everything I had ever done wrong in my life to anyone, any woman I've ever objectified, anybody that I've ever hurt or insulted, all of that accountability was now coming through me. And oh boy, it hurt. It hurt bad. And then I got up, and then the next stage hit me, and I'll never forget it. In a second, I got a wave of forgiveness for my ex, forgiveness for my child, forgiveness for my mother, my father. I had this feeling I've never felt, this love for myself that I've never even knew existed, go through my body. I started screaming and crying for joy, and then it shifted to. And meanwhile, I'm at work. I'm in this house that I'm renovating, and I'm pretty sure the neighbors could hear something going on in here because what's going on in there, right? And I'll never forget it. I felt for the first time love for myself, and the crazy thing is, I'm trying to stay on track. I've never felt that. I have felt slivers of I did a good job, but I've never felt a deep-rooted love for me. And I knew it didn't come from me. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask to wake up and be accountable and love myself. And then the next thing happened. I looked at the bottle of wine sitting on the counter, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Which is difficult for an alcoholic, because when I drank as much as I did, I look forward to the next one, to the next one. That urge, that desire to smoke was gone. And I'm like, this can't be, this doesn't make any sense. All I said was, please help me. And I wake up with love for myself, accountability, no desire to smoke, none, not even a tiny bit, none. This isn't right. This is not happening. So the whole day went by at the end of the night, and I'm going through walking, pacing. I didn't get anything done. Nothing done that day. I started saying, well, okay, this is weird. I started praying some more. I said, okay, please show me, whomever, whatever, please show me and tell me what I need to do. And so went on YouTube and opened up some random new believers in Jesus. Started typing that in and got some videos. Anyway. So that was, just to answer your question, that was the beginning of a complete overhaul in my life.
So you didn't have the girl back, but you struggled to be a different person. Maybe no, not struggled. You needed to show Sarah that you were a changed man. And do you think, I mean, spiritually wise, has it been without difficulties?
It's a different kind of difficulty. I'd be lying through my teeth. We had difficulties this morning,
Yeah.
but it's different because to add to that, in my metamorphosis stage, I was so blown away with what was happening to me that I didn't even have a feeling of loss or regret for Sarah. She meant so much to me, and that breakup was so painful. That pain was also gone. I literally had no pain, no fear, no anxiety, no substance desire. I had nothing. And I was like, oh, whoa. I texted her a little bit, but the feeling, the force, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, was telling me, you got work to do.
Right.
You got work to
Right.
do. You just took a shower after you were full of mud. Okay, right. You were dirty as all heck. You just took a shower. Now you got to put on clothes. You can't go out there like that.
No.
You got to put on some clothes. Okay? No, not yet. You're naked. You're raw.
Yeah.
And you're not quite ready yet. So I would text her, something has happened to me, God is great, this and that. And of course, she would be like, that's great. I hope you do,
Yeah, do you. Thumbs up. Do you.
Yeah, we're done.
Do you, Charles. Do you.
We are done. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting in bed and with this smile on my face, like, something's about to change, and I know it is. And then I get a message from her father, Sarah's father, saying, I could use your help with a job. Boom. Exactly. A little whistle went off. And I'm like, I stopped my job in Kimberly and I drove as fast as I could to Creston and I saw him. And meanwhile, in his mind, he's heard nothing but bad stuff about me and the breakup. But for some reason, I thought he was probably, a couple thoughts was just give me a sock in the face. I don't know. I just felt like I should go there. Everything said go there. So I went there. And as soon as I saw him, I started crying. And I told him what was happening with me. And he said, I believe in you.
Awesome.
I know that you and my daughter might not make it, but I believe in you. Woo! Yeah, powerful stuff. So worked with him for a while. And Sarah and I kept talking. And then we started hanging out. And she noticed the difference in me. And I had an unbelievable desire to follow Jesus, Yeshua, the Christ, Messiah, the messenger, the light, the truth, the way, the hand, the face of God, whatever you want to call him. I had this desire to get to know him. And I didn't ask for it. And this is the funny thing. I felt like Paul on the road to Damascus. I didn't ask for that. I was cursing him. I didn't want to know him. Knowing him meant no more fun. Knowing him meant no more sleeping around and binge drinking and indulging in my senses. I didn't want anything to do with that.
Yeah. You had to be selfless, not selfish.
Yeah.
You had to look at other people instead of being self-centered. Yeah, shut
Oh, it's
down.
all good. Yeah,
Okay,
let's just
didn't
say,
matter to you or
yeah,
her.
it didn't matter to me or her whether we got back together or not, because we have been through so much. We have fought so much. She's fiery. I'm fiery. I don't back down. She doesn't back down. I never give up. And that bullheadedness is a potent mix. But because of the prayer and um, her claiming that her, God is first in her life and I am second, and me seeing that she really meant that. She was willing to sever the relationship so that I and God could get things figured out. And of course, I'm like, well, what if she goes and talks to other guys? Well, what if this is just a weird breakup? And I'm like, I didn't feel the need to stalk her, look at like check her messages or do anything. I had none of that. Insecurity was gone. That's how I knew that something in me was beyond me. My insecurities are gone. My hatred for my ex is gone. My trauma from my childhood is gone. My substance abuse is gone, and it's replaced with this love for myself and this desire to get to know the Creator. That is unheard of, and so we realized that we had to put God first before we could ever have a relationship, because we tried it the other way around. It was a disaster. We tried to do things for ourselves before we ever met. Disaster. And there was no common ground. We were just flinging it, and it was a disaster. So lo and behold, after 3 or 4 months of trying to figure things out and dedicating our lives to following God instead of following each other, I proposed to her, asked her to marry me.
Did she say yes?
She did not. But what she did say was, not yet. She still needs some time to mend. And of course,
Right.
it hurt a little bit, but I understood.
Right.
Right? I was no longer trying to force anything, but I knew this was the woman. I knew that this was the one because of just her connection to God was first and foremost. I knew that that was the most important thing. And I knew because of my conversion, my metamorphosis, that that was now the most important thing for me, because I sure as hell was not going back.
Right.
I would die first before I go back into substance abuse, trauma, hatred for myself, hatred for others. No, I've been given a second chance, I feel, and I can't go back.
So you did eventually get married
Yeah, last year.
and
Yeah.
I was honored to stand up
One
as
of
a
the groomsmen.
groomsman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Charles, it's a great story. I love it. I've witnessed an amazing transformation with you. You're still fiery, and we can still battle.
Oh yeah.
But
I still have problems.
yeah,
Just
well,
different.
and you know what? It's part of life. It's part of
Oh
living,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
there are things that we need. But life is about doing things better,
Yeah.
as you know, and
Yeah.
you know, how do we navigate a crazy world of, there's so much negativity in the world,
Mhm.
and you know, we're to lift each other and edify one another, and to build on being kind to one another.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and it's hard. I'm definitely
Whew.
get it, you know. So
Yeah, it's definitely not easy.
you wanted to share a poem.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the it's one of my latest ones, and it's
Okay.
the being on the spot is a little bit interesting on a camera because I've
Okay.
never done that before. But the whole idea of the poem is that whenever I share my testimony with people, right,
Right.
whenever I try to tell them, because a lot of people know that I was a crazy party drinker, wild man.
Yeah.
And when I try to tell them, hey, no, God has saved me. And they're like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What, are you religious?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not religious. I'm not religious. In fact, I am as far from religion as you can get. But the principles that are in the scriptures, the closer I feel like I get to God, the better I feel. And so that's kind of the thought process for the poem is I am not religious. So
Okay.
it goes like, all right, I'm not religious, no. I'm just trying to paint a picture of the one who got me through my bad decisions. Ain't superstitious neither. I don't be wishing on a star or need lucky numbers to tell me who, what, and when we are. I'm a believer, yeah, of the one who makes it rain, brings the sun, brings the joy, brings the smiles and the pain. Ain't no deceiver here that's going to tell me otherwise. We are living, breathing miracles, and life is a surprise. Come on. Life lessons and stressings are blessings. Some of the biggest mistakes we take or we hate produce the best things. I'll be still in beta mode without some testing. I used to be asleep, but right now I'm interesting. Interesting enough was the fake stuff. Unsustainable or entertainable is all fluff. I pray to keep it away, that every day let's hate and more love. In short, we ain't no accident. That's what I speak of. Life is never what it seems to be. Father said, you got to learn to love your enemies. Mama said, don't you forget to breathe. Like, come on. Warm hearts don't make you freeze. You can't feed your family with philosophy. Real faith, when it grows from the smallest seed, eventually it'll grow into the tallest. You guessed it. I'm a believer. And no, I'm not a preacher. I just love the one on high. And I'm a receiver of the truth and real love. Got my peace and purpose till I die. And I'm a believer. No, I'm not a preacher. But I love the one on high. And I'm a believer, yeah. And when I feel that reaper, I'm no longer worried because my creator's by my side. I'm praying for love, I'm praying for patience, but I'm far from perfect. That humble pie's the hardest to chew, but I know it's worth it. I've been to churches, been to service, been a serpent, been a servant, been for real, been left uncertain till it wasn't working. I've been up and down day and night, pushing, pulling left and right. Had no clear direction, time to say goodbye. Adios. Been running for so long, I got cardio. Life had me by the hook until I shouted, Rufio! Was a troubled soul, wasn't on no honor roll. Thought that I was on a roll while searching for that pot of gold. Lo and behold, through the dark I saw the light shine. God is so divine, so I'm branching out. It's my time. One mind. Ain't no one win until we all won. We all in this together. Life's a treasure, so let's build something. I ain't religious, I'm just trying to eat a meal. Hungry for that bread of life, it's how I feel. Because I'm a believer.
Wow. I love you, man.
I love you too.
Okay, give me a hug.
Love you too, brother. Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
To our viewers, thank you for staying in with us. This one's been fun. It's been a little glitchy here and there, so hopefully